Hello everybody and welcome back to The Hobby Musician. On today's practice vlog, I want to try to pull back the curtain a little bit on our production here at the channel. Because as you watch this, it's the present for you, and as I film this, I'm filming this for the future, but this practice vlog is about the past. I'll explain what I mean. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you might have seen that we recently had our Season 2 finale, and during that finale, I showed a performance of Pachelbel Canon. Now, I am actually sitting down right now to create that. But as I did, I got about half an hour into this and it suddenly hit me, I need to be filming this as a practice vlog because the technique that I'm using to create that piece is that I'm actually using recording as a practice tool. And I know that naturally, if you've done any kind of recording, sometimes we have a tendency as musicians to think we need to practice, get everything worked out, and then record something. And I'm here to tell you that does not have to be the case. I actually use recording as a powerful practice tool because I figured out a way to really help me workshop ideas. I might have an idea, but I don't know how it fits with anything else, so I'll record it. And then I'll loop it, and then I'll figure out another part and go on from there. Now, the cool thing about Pachelbel Canon is that technically a canon is a piece of music written with sections that are composed and made to be played over and over top of every single one. It's kind of, you think about it, it's like a 400-year-old looping pedal. Like that's the technique that they're using. And as I sat down, the main goal, what I'm planning on doing with this is I want to feature and highlight all of the different basses that I own. So every part I want to play a different bass on. But right now, today, I'm just trying to figure out parts. So I'm going to use one bass, I'm going to sit down, and I'm just going to try to play and record all of the various parts that I ultimately want to perform. And then I'm going to come back and record it again for real. I'm going to get the tones that I want. I'm going to get the basses that I want. So I just wanted to show you a couple quick things that I'm learning as I'm going through this. Now, Pachelbel Canon, if you've been to any kind of weddings or anything in the past, I don't know, century, you probably heard this. It's very iconic, and it has that walking kind of chord progression that's really familiar. So it's Pachelbel Canon, most famously in D. So it starts on a D. Now right there, that's kind of the chord progression. But as soon as I began to kind of pick that out and figure that out, I didn't want to just leave it there. That, to me, that's going to be too boring for the piece that I've envisioned in my head. So what I did though is, just because it's boring doesn't mean it won't help me. So I'll switch over. I've got the screen pulled up in the background. I want to show you what I did. I recorded that. I just put it down. So you can see here, I've got a metronome going. So as I practice, this is a really helpful way to stay in time. This is the tempo that I picked. And you can just hear, you know, so I've got this set to help me practice. Now I'm going to stop it right there, but as I went, I said before, I felt that was a little too boring for the foundation. When you hear this played, oftentimes it's on a piano, and what the piano players will do is arpeggiate these chords. They'll play other notes in the chord, not just the root notes like I was doing there. So I started to think, well, what could I do? Could I mix in some chords? So instead of playing the notes down here on the neck, I actually moved up, and I started to think, what if I played little dyads, two notes, a dyad, where there are two notes in the chord. So I'm playing the root note D, and then the major third. It's an octave higher than the regular. This is called an open voicing because it goes past one octave. But right there, I had to make it a minor. Now, right here, I ran into a problem. When I was thinking through what I could do, I realized I don't have another string lower than this. So I went back. Instead of going down to the fifth, I went to the third of this chord, which was back to the minor. And I thought, well, maybe that'll spice it up. So as you can see in the background here, I recorded that as bass chords. And so when you play that, I gave it a little tempo. You can kind of hear there's a little rhythm to it. And then at the end, I ended up putting just a little walk up. And I'm looping it here. I'm just using the tool in GarageBand to allow me to loop the same section. So this is how I started to get more and more complicated. And ultimately, I started filming this. I had an idea, but I haven't recorded the next one because I wanted to capture this process. But I thought to myself, even that I don't think is, I guess, interesting enough for me. So what I'm going to do kind of next and later is I'm going to, instead of just 2 notes, I wanted to arpeggiate. I'm going to tap out more notes of the chord. So for the D, I'm going to play the root, 5th, octave, and major 3rd. And then go down to play the minors. Now here's where I need to do that weird chord. Now you can hear it's rough right there, but what I do is that this is how I use the practice tool. I'll get that metronome going. I'll continue to play that in a loop, and I'll put on just that really simple, the very first one that I did, just as a practice. I'm going to end up deleting that whole track, but it really does help me practice. Now the cool thing, moving on, we all know and we recognize that this piece has all of those different kind of cool harmony lines and melody lines that move through the piece. And this is how I use it to practice. So I'm going to go back to that very first one. Just the notes. I want to pick out maybe the first harmony line here. And you can take some creative license, so kind of just pick any harmony that you'll work. So I'm going to try something. Go down. You know, something like that. And by looping this, I was able to pick that out. And you can see here what I did was I went and recorded that. So now I can play these two together. And you start going from there. And I worked out, at this point, I've only worked out kind of one more line here. So like, and you can hear there, it's not exact, it's kind of my interpretation, my take on it. But this process is the process that I wanted to show you. I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna work and hack out all of these other parts. And when I get it to the place that I like it, it's also getting it under my fingers. So when I go and grab all the other basses and pull up all the other tones, when I go to record this for real, I've already got everything worked out, and that process goes so much smoother. So if you want to check out the full performance, don't miss our last season finale. I'll put a link up at the top. And as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, play on, my friends. Play on.